Hello, gay men, and welcome to Coming Inside Out. I am John Derwer.
I am Brian James. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, we got a great show for you guys. Guess what? We have our first guest.
Yes, we did. Bam.
Yay! That's right. All the way from Massachusetts.
Yes.
That's right. Mr. Jimmy Kennedy. Welcome, Jimmy.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure.
Are you part? I'm glad you're here. Are you part of the Kennedy family, the political?
I am part of a Kennedy family, but I'm a Kennedy family.
Well, listen, you are here, and all of our listeners were very excited. And, we're just going to dive right on into it, Jimmy. Sure. You could just share us your story about coming out and your situation. We would love to hear it.
I will be happy to do that in as succinct and as, I hope, helpful and informative a manner as possible. I found you guys by accident and was really happy this existed. I know the Gay Fathers of Boston have talked about kicking around, starting up a podcast. So I had been kind of poking around, found you guys, was moved and related, obviously, to or not obviously, to a lot of what you had to say in the podcast I heard, and reached out, and here we are.
Yes.
As previously advertised, my name is Jim Kennedy. I live in the Boston area. Spent a lot of time down also Cape Cod as well. And I'm going to first introduce myself as I introduce myself in all facets of life, and that is I am the father of 3 children.
Beautiful.
That is the greatest, truly, without sounding too sappy, the greatest accomplishment of my life.
Yes.
We actually, my ex-wife and I, in 1990, lost our very first child. It was a life-changing event, changed the course of our lives, but we were absolutely blessed. And my kids are now all grown up. I have a 32-year-old, a 31-year-old, and a 29-year-old. And everyone is happy and healthy and on their way in life. And that is a wonderful thing. But about 16 years ago, just shy of my 21st wedding anniversary, I made a disclosure, shall we call it, to my wife and 3 kids on a Sunday evening in a let's say a manner that I would say is ill-advised to anyone listening to this podcast as a way to come out. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But everybody's story is their story, and mine had to happen the way it did. And there are parts of it I'm grateful for because I'm not sure it would have happened had it not happened the way it did. And in a day, my life was changed forever. And quite frankly, without being melodramatic, I'm still lucky to be here. And that all fits into the story.
So many of our listeners, their lives have changed in an instant, the same as yours. So, yes.
I carried around a secret for a very, very, very long time. That was quite literally eating me alive. And I'll get to that in a second, but I think it'd be helpful. And probably a lot of people could relate. To give you a real quick synopsis of my background. I'm one of 5 kids, Irish Catholic family. Interestingly enough, I think we're Kennedys, so we're liberal Irish Catholics. And so I was a child product of the 70s and the 80s. Never in my house did I hear that gay was bad or evil or anything. Nothing really disparaging. Quite frankly, that or sex was never talked about, so hardly surprising. But as many of you can relate to, I'm in the big bad world at school or wherever else you might be in church. The message reached me loud and clear that to be gay is such a cool thing.
Yes. And you're come from a religious background also, correct?
I do, but as I said, yeah, I went into church, but I didn't hear it at all. But, the interesting thing, there were 600 kids in my graduating class in high school. I grew up in Connecticut, and I knew literally he was one, and he was rather flamboyant, so we really couldn't hide it. And all I knew was that for the junior high school and high school, 6 years that I knew that kid, he was tormented.
Wasn't he? Those are the kids that really so much courage. I mean, because we've all had it at my high school, my junior high, and we're going to have this gentleman on our podcast, and he lives in New York, and he came out, and I mean, my God, the courage of these kids, like your friend or the young man, it's amazing. It's amazing, and they had to go through all of this.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was that kid. But so the message reached me loud and clear. However, having said that, that was not the path I either had chosen for myself or believed the world wanted for me. And I was a conformist. Was raised in a fairly high-profile family. Was expected to do well, both academically and athletically and all that kind of stuff, and people pleaser, but more than that, I envisioned myself growing up to get married, have a successful career, have a family, and live the white picket fence American dream.
That's what so many of us wanted. That's what I wanted. My teens, I wanted to be married. I wanted to be a family man. So that was my mindset, regardless of what was going on internally. That was my focus. Was that I was family.
My mother was a big fan of the Kennedys. I'll tell this quick little aside. And she had every book known to mankind. And I used to look at these like coffee table books. She had Robert S. Kennedy's family, and he has like 14 kids, 16 kids, whatever he had. And I used to be like, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, yes, and also their hairline would be awesome for me because
you let these I didn't think there's a bang cap on this end.
Those Kennedys had such a Eddie Munster hairline all the way down to here and back, the little quaffs, and
So, Jim, when did you meet your wife? Tell us that you met your wife.
I met my wife. I didn't meet my wife until I was 27 years old.
27 years, okay.
27 years old. I was I was a competitive tennis player. I played in college. It was a big, huge part of my life. And I was a well-liked kid, a social kid, but a very early age, I was not one of the boys. I couldn't figure out quite why. And my 20s were a very kind of lonely period. I had a tremendous number of college friends that we hung out with, but I dated women. And when it came time for that portion of the relationship to commence, I always found a reason for it not to. And I used to say to myself, repression and denial are pretty strong things. And I guess it's always easy to say in retrospect.
Yes.
I said, all I need to do is meet the right girl. All I need to do is meet the right girl. And in 27, I met her. And at the risk of being a little frank, we had sex. And I'm like, there you go. I literally was the 27-year-old virgin. Literally.
Really?
My people, genuine. And she was and is a wonderful person. And we had a fairly short courtship and marriage, and got married and started having kids right away. And very blessed by that. And we were blessed to have her stay home and take care of the kids. That required me to travel a lot. I was fortunate enough to do well enough at work, but it was my 30s were a blur.
So, Jim,
Yeah.
we want to dive into some of this because we try and keep these to 30 minutes. So I'm going to start asking you a couple questions. So you knew or you had feelings about being attracted to men before you and your wife got together and married. And then once you and your wife got married and started having kids, was it your belief that those feelings were going to dissipate or somehow go away because you were now married and you were now having kids and you were going to outgrow this feelings you had?
So I talked to me about being that tennis playing kid, and even remembering the 70s, we all in gym class took showers together.
Yes.
And that early on, I knew I found the male body interesting.
Yes.
I had no interest in relationships. I had no interest in anything other than I found that fascinating. But to your point, Brian, I just was absolutely 100% convinced that this was a phase, and this is something I will outgrow.
Me too. You know what, Jim, you just hit on a really good point that in the showers, I remember that, and looking at other guys, and maybe comparing physique, maybe penises or whatever.
Sure.
But it wasn't anything that I even thought of acting out on. I just appreciated it as just, as something beautiful. But no, never acted on that. But thank you for sharing that.
It happens to be the truth. And, so fast forward to married, 3 kids, boom, boom, boom. And our lives were, as you can imagine, tremendously hectic. And my 30s were a blur. But I will also say my late 30s into my early 40s, that feeling of different. First of all, I was not one of the golf playing dudes in my neighborhood, nor did I really want to be. And but this feeling of heaviness and being different was getting stronger and stronger. And I was starting to really clue in on what was going on. I was growing.
How many years? Yeah. How many years into the marriage did that feeling start?
Probably about 12 years into the marriage.
How did you cope with this? What were you doing to cope with this?
Alcohol and antidepressants. And that's where I said before that my coming out story feeds into all of this. In my late 30s, I helped found a company that that blessedly did quite well, because that mattered later financially. But we were always very social, and I was always a drinker, but not a heavy one. But I started as this problem in my mind that no one, and when I say no one, knew about. I kept it to it lived inside of me. I started using alcohol. I went to my primary care guy and said, dude, I can't put 2 thoughts together. I can't keep, and he prescribed, an anti-anxiety medication, which is not to be mixed with alcohol, by the way, but he had no idea how much I was drinking. And I used those things to self-medicate. And I just wanted the problem to go away. I wanted the voices in my head to quiet down.
I think this is important for our listeners to hear, is that a lot of the men out there are self-medicating because they're trying to drown out this voice that just keeps beating in the back of their mind.
It just, that became a part of defining who I was. I'm a closeted gay guy, because I will tell you, at about 40 years of age, probably 41 years of age, I admitted it to myself. I looked myself in the mirror in the bathroom one day and said, holy shit, you are a fucking gay man.
Yeah.
You look at the life you've built and the family you have, you are, pardon my French, but you are screwed, dude, because I am never coming out. I've made my bed and I'm going to lay in it. And so the substance abuse became worse.
Jim, let me ask you about the sub, because you went into AA, right?
I still do.
Well, this is after your divorce, so that you start.
So that's where I'll quickly tell you the problem was getting worse and worse. Mm-hmm. No one knew about it but the people inside our homes. And we sold my company got sold. I was blessed, or so I thought, not to have to work for a little while. Unfortunately, that leaves you 24/7 to be inside your head.
Yeah.
And my drinking got worse and worse and worse. And for those of anybody out there who's familiar with alcoholism, there's just a thing called a blackout, where you're conscious, but you don't remember a thing that happened. And one Sunday night, I literally walked downstairs. My wife and 3 kids were watching a movie. I walked into the room, and evidently I told them I was gay. To this day, I have zero recollection of that.
So that was your coming out.
That was my coming out to my family, and I don't remember.
And you had to medicate yourself in order to do that.
And it took what it took. Is the way I now have to look at it. I went away to treatment the next day. So I came out and got sober on the same day.
How old were your children?
My kids were they were junior high school and high school. One of the great guilts that I carry around was my oldest daughter was 3 weeks away from her freshman year of college. Mm-hmm. And for me to do that to her, as I saw it at the time, was awful. And I still feel terrible about it. And I have, we've talked about it. We're very close. And it was what should have been one of the happier times in her life, was anything but. Right. And, I blessedly, away, never moved back home. My life, when I say changed in an instant, it changed in an instant. And I moved 3 miles away from the family home and have never touched a drop of alcohol since.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that. And, the one thing I will say is I'm not exactly proud of the way it happened, but I'm proud of my behavior since. I owned my behavior since.
Well, you did.
I had never had, in my family, you didn't go to therapy. You didn't have a psychiatrist. Those are shame.
You go to the father. You go to the preacher. That's where you go and you get guidance from the Catholic religion. I was raised Catholic.
And I had a wonderful therapist after he happens to be gay. But during one of our first sessions, he said, there's a group called the Gay Fathers of Boston. You're going to go. And I said, the hell I am. And it was one of the scarier things I've ever done, walking through that room. And whenever new guys come in, I applaud them, because it takes a lot of courage to walk through the door for the first time.
Was this at AA or this was at Gay Fathers?
No, this was at Gay Fathers. It's a huge part of my life. AA is a huge part of my life. I'm talking about Gay Fathers. So when you came out simultaneously.
When you came out, just to recap, make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
When you came out, the next day you left the house, you went into rehab,
treatment.
You went into treatment, and then you moved out and you moved out. Take me back though, because you laid this on your children, you laid this on your wife when you were in a blackout.
Yeah.
What did they see? What did they see when you came down and told them?
They saw a pathetic drunk guy come walking into the room and, just literally blurt these words out. A shit show ensued that I don't really, to this day, honestly remember. I woke up on a couch in the basement the next morning, not remembering what had happened, having a fear, dear God, please let it not be that. And
who told you that? Who told you that?
My two, we'll get down and dirty here. And Brian, some of the things you've said in previous podcasts I can relate to. My kids I had threatened suicide that night. And two of my kids were afraid to let me sleep alone, and they slept at the foot of the bed of a couch where I had passed out, because they were afraid to leave me alone. And that, if you don't think that has induced a tremendous amount of guilt for the trauma I caused them. It did, and has, and I've had to forgive myself. They forgive me, and to answer your question, we had the first couple of years. To anyone who's listening to this, who has not come out yet, people are just as you said. People walk through the doors of our Boston group in every color of the rainbow, no pun intended. But there are guys who are at home and have not come out yet and don't intend to. There are guys who are newly out. There are guys who have wives who are understanding. There are guys who have wives who are crazy lunatics, angry, and believe me, I am not victim blaming here. I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for the other side of the coin, and as time has gone by, and I've gained more for it. But we had a couple of really, really, really difficult years. She was very angry.
But you were already out of the house.
I was 3 months away, and I had to be a dad. My kids had games after school, and we had, it wasn't.
Was there a healing that you were able to do after you became sober to go back to your children and explain to them, or just hear what if they have any questions? What was that?
Well, then that's where AA ties into it too, because that's all part of making amends. And I needed to do it for a variety of reasons, and we've done it over and over and over again over the years. My wife is less talkative, and I have to respect that. And we have a very cordial, friendly, respectful, I know at some level she loves me. I love her. I care deeply what happens to her. But we've never sat down and had any sort of heart to heart, because she knows I think she knows I would do it, but I have to respect that. And
that's me too. We don't talk about it.
Yeah. And that's her choice. And I understand it. And I'd be happy to do it today.
So my wife and I don't talk about it either, but I think it's the guilt that I walk around with that prevents us from having that conversation. It would be a very hard conversation for us to have. I think that she would ask me a lot of questions that would make me uncomfortable, but I think it's the guilt that lives inside of me that prevents me from even entertaining sitting down and having a conversation with her.
One of the things she did say to me when I told her that, at 41 or 42, whatever it was, when I kind of looked myself in the mirror, as I said that day, she said, from the day you did that till the day you blurted it out, you knew, and you owed me an answer, because you were robbing me of the day of my authentic life every single day you didn't tell me. And that was really hard to hear. But she happens to be 100% right. I say to guys who come out, and it's hard for guys who are early in the process to hear this, because I was one of them. When I would say, I could never do this to them. I could never tell my secret. I will destroy my family. I will hurt everybody. The truth of the matter is, she has her life to live too, and she has her truth to deal with. And where my authentic self happens to be one in which, I happen to be a gay guy. I denied it, whatever, repressed it, whatever word you want to use. That's who I am. It didn't come out until, I was in my mid to late 40s, and my life took a right-hand turn. Well, guess what? You know what? Her truth is she got married. She married a guy who happened to turn out to be gay. That's where her life went. And I have no right, or nor do I have the power to from on high decide what's right for the direction of her life. And I feel pretty strongly about that you're not that powerful. Nor are you that special that you get to decide for her what's best for her. And
right. The thing that came out of it, though, are your three beautiful children.
Yes.
You know,
And had you not gone down this path with your wife, neither of you would have those kids. So it happened for a reason.
Like I said, we have had very few touchy-feely conversations,
sure.
if any. One of them we have had is we would both go through it all again because of our three children.
Yes.
She said that. She is.
Oh, wow. That's, you see, that's empathy. That is empathy from her side. That's huge. I think it's huge. I've never gotten to that with my son, with my boy's mother. Never. But that's really nice. That's really nice to hear. I got a quick question. Is she dating anyone right now?
She is. She has been with the same person for, I want to say 10 years.
Oh.
I've been with someone I've had two significant relationships in all these years. And it took me a while to get it right, but I got it right this time. And with pretty much the greatest person on the walks the earth. And my children are like, they tell me all the time, Dad, I wouldn't screw up because we like him more than we like you. And my wife likes him very much. And my youngest son got married in January, and at that wedding, my wife and I walked down the aisle together. Her partner was there. My partner was there. We all sat at the same table, and we had group pictures taken. And it was, if you had ever told me in a million years that would happen, you know, the one thing I haven't talked about, is the shame element, and how much shame I carried around about this for so long.
Yes.
You know, it was like I had a neon sign over my head when I first came out that just said, blinked, gay, 24/7. Until I finally realized nobody gives. Granted, I'm in New England, I'm in a bubble. I understand that for the people who aren't. And I'm blessed by that. But, and the other thing I will say is I was almost just beyond blessed with, you know, there's an acronym for fear, you know, false expectations appearing real. And I thought I was going to lose every family member, friend, everything I ever had if they really knew who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was somebody that meant anything to me, and became much closer to many people as a result.
Yes.
You had that gay blinking neon sign after you came out. I lived with that gay blinking neon sign from about 7th grade until I came out. So that fear and anxiety and that blinking, that was my curiosity.
That's it, Brian. It's interesting because, you know, for me, it was probably subconsciously stacked down that I didn't know, but you knew.
I felt it. I was so conscious of my mannerism all the time. It's like, okay, don't laugh too loud. Don't use your hands too much. Don't do, you know, everything I did, I was just so conscious of my every movement and everything I did because I didn't want to appear gay at all. So it was just, it was mask. It was just the exhaustedness every day. And, you know, the day that I said I'm gay and I came out, I am so happy. I'm so happy that I'm gay, that I can be who I am.
Right.
I have no shame in it. I know a lot of people have shame with being gay. I did before I came out, but since I came out, I love it.
Jim, I'm loving your story because I know there's so many men out there right now that are self-medicating. Yes. They're self-medicating with alcohol.
It's a bit, I can tell you because I'm involved with good closeted guys and gay guys in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a problem, and you know, it's obvious. It's like you just, all I wanted to do was make it go away, even for if it was for 2 hours, just take me away for a little bit.
Jim, did you tell anybody before this episode where you came out to your wife and kids? Had you confided in anybody before that you were?
When I tell you no one on this planet, I mean no one.
Me too. That was me too. I didn't share that with
a heavy thing to carry around.
Yes, it is.
And now I'm, you can't shut me out. I get it. It's like I have friends. I'll fly across the country for business, and they're like, "So how long did it take you to tell your gay life story to the person sitting next to you in the airplane?" Because I'm happy about it, and it's a good story. And so life has changed in that regard, significant.
It is. It's interesting. As I was telling you the other day, coming out. I'm not blowing the whistle, waving the flag every day when I go somewhere. But it's interesting how easy it is to come out to people. Like my son's basketball team. We were down in San Diego last week, and all the parents were there, and the kids, we all had hotels, and this couple that were just so nice. We were just talking, and they just asked me the question, well, what happened with you and your wife? And I said, I came out. And they're like, what? Yeah, I came out.
Yeah, and I get the same reaction. And I tell it when it's appropriate. When it's I don't tell it gratuitously, but when the opportunity arises, and how you're going to react to it is how you're going to react to it.
But it's so interesting. You were saying earlier, the fear and what people are going to think, and I thought so many people were going to turn against me, and they didn't. They just opened their arms up and hugged me and said, "I love you," and that was the big thing for me. That was the big unexpected thing for me. And it's just so nice now just to, now these guys love me. They loved this couple, and they were like, not that they want to get in bed with me, but they just loved me. And we had a great time afterwards, and it was just so free. It was
one of the things you guys had said, and I've heard it many times before, but to hear it emphasized, and the truism of it is, you were talking about someone had asked you, so when does the time come when you stop having to come out to people? And I'm here to tell you, I can only speak from 16 years of experience, that never comes. I'll be calling out till the day I die, and in one way, shape, or form, and it's okay. That's just the way it is. And it's kind of a fun thing on a lot of people, it's, again, I'm proud of who I am, and anyone who is interested in hearing is welcome to hear.
How about brothers and sisters? You said you were part of 5. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Walk us through that family, how that.
Yeah, I want to add to that, because I think this is a fear of a lot of our listeners. You came out to your kids. You soon after came out to your family, correct?
Yes, very soon.
So give us the whole reaction, because our viewers thinking they're going to come out and they're going to lose everything. How long after this coming out to your children and you going into rehab did the 4 of you sit down together and you discovered that you weren't losing your kids?
We came at, they found out in piecemeal, because I was hospitalized. And my older sister was my emergency contact after my wife. So that's kind of how she found out. And I actually lived with her and her husband for almost 3 weeks until I could find a place to live. And, she just burst out crying and said, "We love you both. And we are here for you, and we'll always love you no matter what." I'm even closer to a younger sister. I have a sister who passed away. But my younger sister and I are the closest. And she had a daughter who came out just a couple years ago. and is very happy and is a wonderful girl. Both her girls are wonderful girls. And we were driving down to Connecticut for the four of us after I had gotten out of treatment to have lunch, because the only one who didn't know was my youngest brother, who, by the way, got married at the age of 49. And my sisters used to be like, "What's the deal with him? Is he gay?" And I'd be like, "You're gonna," and I'm carrying around all I'm carrying around in my head. I'm like, "I don't know. You'd have to ask him. He's not." He got married late in life, but we were going to all have lunch together and tell him. And I was driving down and I was running late. And my younger sister said, "Do you want me to just friggin' tell him before you get here?" I said, "Yes, tell him." And when I walked into the restaurant, he just stood up and he started crying and hugged me. And my mother had already passed away. My father was the last person to know, and it took about 7 or 8 months for me to get up the courage to do that. But that's an important piece of this, because my kids, everybody knew in our family but him, and I was afraid of the reaction I would get from him. And all of a sudden, one day, I'm like, "What am I teaching my children? I've spent my life keeping a secret. It almost killed me. Yeah. And now I'm teaching there's something to be ashamed of here. This is wrong. What am I doing?" My father was in Florida at the time. I jumped on an airplane. I flew to Florida, and I told his ass. And
what was his reaction?
I cried my way through it. I couldn't look up. And he had remarried by then. And he said, "I can't say as I completely understand. Fair enough." He said, "But you're my son, and I love you, and I will always support you." And he only got better. He just died 2 years ago. And he only got better as the years went on. And we could joke and, have some fun with it. And yeah, I was very blessed in that regard.
It's nice.
Well, we're approaching our time on this one. So I think we should wrap it here, and we're going to do a part 2.
So we could just keep going.
Well, let's wrap this up. Jim, we want to thank you so much for joining us today.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And you're not going away, because you're about to slide into part 2. So listeners, if you're listening, we're going to continue.
Yes.
And just come on by.
Yes. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you next week.